Welcome to Montana Housing's Purchase 101 Part 2, the nuts and bolts. We appreciate your interest in our programs. In this training, we will go over each document found on a submission voucher for Montana Housing purchase packages. Our intent is to receive clean files that can be processed and purchased in a timely manner. Let's get started. Before I go into the details of a submission voucher, please find available on Montana Housing's website, housing.mt.gov, the submission voucher details. This document is for reference when assembling a purchase package. Every document that Montana Housing requires in a purchase package is listed in alphabetical order with a detailed explanation of what housing staff is looking for in order to clear a file for funding. Please remember to bookmark this page. Submission vouchers for all programs have three main sections. The top part of the form has the reservation information, including the reservation number, borrower names, property address, and loan officer. The middle section of the submission voucher is the list of required documents in stacking order for Montana Housing staff to review. Our intention is to review the file in a timely manner, so if a file comes in that is not stacked in order, a lender may be requested to restack and re-upload that file. The bottom of the submission voucher includes all escrow information which is needed when the file is purchased. It also has the contact information of the lender staff member who assembled the file in case Montana Housing staff needs to contact someone regarding the file. Today we are focusing on the middle section of the submission voucher and the documents requested for staff review. Starting with the first item on the submission voucher, we have the RD loan note guarantee, which is required for loan purchase. The guarantee must be completed to identify the loan, including the SFH guarantee annual fee amortization schedule. The FHA mortgage insurance certificate, VA loan note guarantee, and the HUD 184 certificate can be to follow documents delivered to Montana Housing within 90 days from the purchase date. Please note that late submission of to follow final documents beyond 90 days of the purchase date, a lender may be assessed a $50 fee per document per 30-day increment. The proof of mortgage record change pertains to loans that are insured by FHA or guaranteed by RD. This document is proof that the loan has been transferred to Montana Board of Housing as the holder or investor and as the servicer. For FHA, remit the HUD Form 92080, which can be done electronically through FHA Connection using Montana Board of Housing's FHA number 25186. For RD loans, remit the RD Form 3555-11 with Montana Board of Housing information in the holder and servicer boxes, or the electronic RD Link GLS Loan View using Montana Board of Housing's tax ID 81-0428319. Montana Housing will not purchase the file until we have received the proof of mortgage record change. The original first mortgage note must be sent to Montana Housing prior to purchase. It must contain signatures of each borrower, co-borrower, and/or co-signer, and be endorsed to Montana Board of Housing without recourse. Montana Housing does accept unlodged endorsements in lieu of the note bearing an endorsement to Montana Board of Housing. The only exception to this would be notes for the Veterans Home Loan Program. Montana Housing services loans in the Veteran Home Loan Program, but Montana Board of Investments is the investor for this program since the funds come from the Montana Coal Tax Trust Fund. Therefore, the notes must be endorsed to the Montana Board of Investments without recourse. On a side note for loans serviced by the lender, if payments have been made prior to the purchase, lenders must provide a complete loan history breaking out the payments into principal, interest, and escrow amounts. The original down payment assistance second mortgage loan note must be sent to Montana Housing prior to purchase. The note must contain signatures of each borrower, co-borrower, and/or co-signer, and be endorsed to the Montana Board of Housing without recourse. Montana Housing does accept launch endorsements on the second mortgage loan note in lieu of the note bearing an endorsement to Montana Board of Housing. Again, for loans serviced by the originator, if payments have been made prior to the purchase of the second mortgage loan, lenders must provide a complete loan history breaking out the payments into principal and interest amounts. The Bond Advantage Down Payment Assistance Program Second Mortgage Loan is a 15-year fixed-rate amortized loan. Please make sure that the maturity date is for a 15-year or 180 months term and that the amortized monthly payment is calculated correctly. The MBOH plus 0% Deferred Down Payment Assistance Program Second Mortgage Loan is a 30-year deferred second lien due upon sale or refinancing of the first mortgage loan. Please make sure that the maturity date on the second mortgage loan note is the same as the first mortgage loan note, which is 30 years, and the amount of payment is the full principal balance of the DPA loan. This is not a monthly amortizing loan. Participating MERS lenders are required to provide a copy of the MERS online min summary prior to Montana Housing purchasing the loan. The summary must show the loan transferred to the Montana Board of Housing as the investor and the servicer as applicable. Montana Housing's MERS number is 1003651. Please note that MERS is not allowed on DPA second mortgage loans nor in the Veterans Home Loan Program. If an originator does not participate in MERS, first mortgage loans can still be assigned to Montana Board of Housing with an assignment of deed of trust. A copy of the recorded assignment of deed of trust is required to fund the loan. If Montana Housing is servicing the loan, the original assignment of deed of trust or an original clerk and recorder's certified copy is required as a to-follow document delivered to Montana Housing within 90 days from the purchase date. The assignment has to clearly recite the deed of trust recording information and be properly signed and notarized. Please note, Montana Housing does not accept assignments of mortgage as we are a non-judicial state. For second mortgage down payment assistance loans closed in the lender's name and assigned to Montana Board of Housing, a copy of the recorded assignment of subordinate deed of trust is required to fund the loan. If Montana Housing is servicing the loan, the original assignment subordinate of deed of trust or an original clerk and recorder certified copy is required as a to-follow document delivered to Montana Housing within 90 days from the purchase date. The assignment must clearly recite the subordinate deed of trust recording information and be properly signed and notarized. Again, Montana is a non-judicial state that does not accept assignments of mortgage. Please note, MERS is not allowed on DPA second loans nor in the Veterans Home Loan Program. A copy of the recorded deed of trust for the first mortgage loan is required to fund. The deed of trust must include the MBOH uniform rider, in addition to all applicable riders such as VA rider, MERS rider, PUD rider, etc., recorded in consecutive order with the deed of trust. The deed of trust should know which riders are attached under the riders section. The copy must clearly show recording information from the county clerk and recorder. Documents certified by title companies are not accepted without recording data on the face of the document. For loans serviced by Montana Housing, the original deed of trust must be forwarded to Montana Housing within 90 days of the funding date. A copy of the recorded subordinate deed of trust for second mortgage loans is required to fund. This 6-page document is recorded by itself and not attached to any other document. The copy must clearly show recording information from the county clerk and recorder. Documents certified by title companies are not accepted without recording data on the face of the document. For loans serviced by Montana Housing, the original subordinate deed of trust must be forwarded to Montana Housing offices within 90 days of funding. Please note there are no riders attached to this document. A copy of the recorded warranty deed is required to fund. A warranty deed is used to transfer an interest in real estate in Montana in most real estate transactions. A Montana warranty deed conveys real property with warranty covenants to the new owner buyer. It offers the best protection for the new owner buyer because it guarantees that the title is good and marketable. This document is signed, notarized, and recorded. The legally enforceable obligation and award letter is for loans in the Bond Advantage or MBOH plus 0% deferred down payment assistance programs, which are insured by FHA only. This letter documents that Montana Board of Housing has, at or before closing, incurred a legally enforceable obligation to provide funds towards the borrower's required minimum cash investment through the referenced DPA loan. Montana Housing has agreed to loan the borrower the down payment assistance loan amount, and to make such loan agrees to purchase the down payment assistance loan made by the originating lender. The borrower's signature is required. This letter is generated in our lender portal along with other closing documents in Lender Online at lenderonline.mt.gov. If the title commitment policy is in the file being reviewed and it shows the borrower invoiced for endorsements, the final mortgage title insurance policy must be received within 90 days of the funding date. The policy must name Montana Board of Housing or MERS as nominee for the originating lender, or originating lender ISAOA as the insured. The only exception to who is named the insured is for the Veterans Home Loan Program loans, which need to show Montana Board of Investments as the insured. The policy must insure the full loan amount of the mortgage loan, show the correct property address and borrower names. All policies must provide extended coverage, including all applicable endorsements such as the 9-06, 22-06, 8.1-06, and the 7-06 if the home is a manufactured home. Loans on leasehold estates require a copy of the recorded lease included in the final title policy. Loans under HUD 184 program on trust land require the Title Status Report, or the TSR, be provided within 90 days of funding. Please note, any encroachment issues on the property need to be resolved before Montana Housing receives the final title policy. No exceptions. A manufactured home means a residential dwelling built in a factory in accordance with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Code and federal manufactured home construction and safety standards. Final title policies for manufactured homes required the endorsement 7-06. In order to fund the loan, however, the MV-72 Statement of Intent to declare a manufactured home as improvement to real property is required. This document is required to demonstrate detitling by a secured party and should show 2 recording stamps by the Clerk and Recorder's Office. The process starts when the current owner records the completed Statement of Intent, or the MV-72, with the County Clerk and Recorder's Office in the county which the manufactured home is located. Then the current owner presents the original recorded MV-72 to the County Treasurer's Office. Once the County Treasurer updates the electronic record, they will forward the MV-72 to the Motor Vehicle Division in Deer Lodge. The Motor Vehicle Division verifies the documents, updates the electronic record to show the status of detitled, and then provides the current owner with an original recordable signed MV-72. The current owner then re-records the original signed MV-72 with the county clerk and recorder of the same county in which the manufactured home is located. If the final title policy is not available for funding, Montana Housing will accept the title commitment to fund the loan. The title commitment must assure coverage in the full amount of the mortgage loan, show correct property address and borrower names. There must be proof of extended coverage in the form of listing endorsements borrower is paying for, including the 9-06, 22-06, 8.1-06, and if applicable, the 7-06 for manufactured homes. Short title policies are not acceptable, as Montana Housing will not consent to anything but a full title policy. The final loan estimate signed by the borrower is required to fund. Do not submit all loan estimates presented to the borrowers if there has been changes to the terms. Montana Housing only requires the final loan estimate presented to the borrower. In the case of a Montana Housing down payment assistance loan, a separate final loan estimate for the second mortgage is also required. A copy of the final closing disclosure is required on both buyer and seller sides of the transaction. Please do not include all closing disclosures if there has had been previous changes to the CD, as this delays the review of the file. In the case of a borrower using MBOH's down payment assistance programs, the final CD for the first mortgage and the final CD for the second mortgage are required. The closing disclosure is used to check figures related to the loan calculations, including the amount of title insurance, mortgage or guarantee fees, loan origination fees or costs, hazard insurance and acquisition costs, etc. According to Montana housing guidelines, the CD cannot show there was cash back to the borrower at closing. If there are funds left over at the closing, those funds will be part of the purchase calculation as a principal reduction to the borrower's loan. Please do not send any checks to Montana Housing. Montana Housing allows a total of 1.75% origination fee paid by the borrower or the seller. Lender fees, such as an application fee, underwriting fee, processing fee, administrative fee, etc., must be reasonable and not exceed the usual cost incurred on a like property where financing is not provided through the board. The initial escrow account disclosure statement details the specific charges that the borrower will pay into escrow each month as a part of a mortgage agreement. A copy of this form signed by the borrowers is required in the file. Please do not send any checks to Montana Housing, as the initial escrow deposit amount will be net funded at purchase. Please include a copy of the Alta settlement statement as prepared by the title company, including borrower, seller, and settlement agent signatures if available. Again, Montana housing guidelines prohibit cash back to the borrower. All excess funds will be applied as a principal reduction at funding. The mortgager's affidavit must be completed and signed by the borrowers. Staff will check for correct interest rate, mortgager names, property address, legal description, and if the property is located in a targeted or non-targeted area. All required fields must reflect true and accurate statements of the transaction. Number 6 is for household income and family size and must show the household gross annual income calculated according to the Income Determination Guide as set forth on Montana Housing's website. Annual household income includes income for anyone who is 18 years and older who will be living in the residence. This amount auto-populates from the reservation. Please be sure that the annual gross household income amount is correct at the time of reservation, or the incorrect amount will carry throughout the generated documents. Number 8 speaks to the borrower's present ownership status. Options A, B, or C should be marked as appropriate. Number 9 determines whether a property is or is not located in a targeted area. If a property is not in a targeted area and a borrower is not required to file federal income taxes, please enter the years the borrower did not file federal income taxes and the reason why the borrower did not have to file. Number 10 is for the acquisition costs, also known as the purchase price, plus any needed repairs. This field auto-populates from the reservation information. Please be sure that the amount is correct at the time of reservation, or the incorrect amount will carry throughout to the generated documents. Number 14 determines whether the buyer is or is not an employee or related to an employee of the board. Please do not forget the lender's signature and information on page 6 of this form. The seller's affidavit must be completed with all required fields and signed by the sellers. Staff will check for seller and mortgager names and property address. All required fields must reflect true and accurate statements of the transaction. Number 1 defines who the seller is. Please be sure this is checked as A, B, C, or D as appropriate. Number 7 is the acquisition cost, also known as the purchase price, plus any needed repairs. This field auto-populates from the reservation information. Please be sure that the amount is correct at the time of reservation, or the incorrect amount will carry through to the generated documents. Number 9 determines whether the seller is or is not an employee or related to an employee of the board. A copy of the final loan application signed by the borrowers at closing must be included in the purchase package. This must contain all signatures, including the borrower, co-borrowers, and/or co-signers as appropriate. On FHA loans, include the 4-page HUD Addendum Form 92-900, and on VA loans, include the 2-page VA Addendum Form 26-1802A, signed by the borrowers and lender. If the loan is participating in the Bond Advantage or MBOH Plus 0% deferred down payment assistance programs, there should be a final loan application for the first mortgage and a final loan application of the second mortgage present in the file, since these are two completely separate loans. Because a mortgage guaranteed by VA is made at an interest rate below what is usually being charged, the mortgage provides that a borrower cannot sell their home to a person ineligible for assistance from Montana Board of Housing unless the borrower pays the loan in full. In the case of a VA loan, a copy of Montana Board of Housing's VA required disclosure statement, signed by the borrowers, must be provided on all VA guaranteed loans. As with the previous document, because a mortgage insured by FHA is made at an interest rate below what is usually being charged, the mortgage provides that a borrower cannot sell their home to a person ineligible for assistance from Montana Housing unless the borrower pays the loan in full. In the case of an FHA loan, a copy of Montana Board of Housing's FHA disclosure to buyer, signed by borrowers, must be provided. Gross annual income is the anticipated total income from all sources and before taxes or withholding of the borrower, the spouse of the borrower, and any other adult who lives in the residence being financed or who is secondarily liable on the mortgage loan. Based on income information received through the loan application process, household income shall be projected for the 12-month period following the date of application. All income should be included, whether received by check, in cash, or in the form of goods and services. Income includes wages and salaries, overtime pay, commissions, fees, tips, and bonuses, pay raises, and any other compensation from the previous 12 months. Montana Housing requires a written verification of employment, or a VOE, in order to calculate income for the housing programs. Montana Housing does not accept verbal verifications of income in lieu of the written VOE. Self-employed persons shall submit their IRS tax returns, including any depreciation schedules, for the previous 2 years. Each borrower shall certify that each return is a complete, true, and exact copy of the original submitted to the IRS. Business income that cannot be supported by an income tax return shall not be included in the income calculations. If the borrower is a partner in a partnership or has an ownership interest in a small corporation, i.e., assets of $1 million or less, the previous 2 years of partnership or corporation returns, together with all schedules, must be submitted with the loan application. The lender shall calculate the gross annual income for each self-employed borrower by averaging the reported net income plus any declared depreciation expense for the previous 2 years. If the borrower is self-employed for less than 2 years, the most recent year's tax returns with all schedules, plus a current year-to-date professionally prepared profit and loss statement, together with 1 year projected income statement, must be submitted. For any adult residing in the household who does not have an income source, Montana Housing requires a signed statement of no income from that household member to have in the file. The Income Determination Guide for Montana Housing Income Requirements can be found on our website at housing.mt.gov/homeownership/lenders under the Program Resources. If property is located in a non-targeted area, copies of the borrower's federal income tax returns for the previous 3 years are required to prove no prior home ownership. Tax returns must be signed. Do not include state tax returns as they are not required. For purposes of determining which tax returns are required, the 3 years are established by the closing date. For example, a loan closing on February 1st, 2020 would require 2016, 2017, 2018, with 2019 tax returns as a final document provided by April 15th in the year of the loan closing. If federal tax returns are not available, Montana Housing will accept IRS transcripts in lieu of the federal tax returns. No signature is required on the transcripts. For properties in targeted areas, tax returns or IRS transcripts are not required. Please note, full instructions for the following requirement are located on the mortgager's affidavit under Item 9. If a mortgage loan is closed between January 1st and April 15th of a calendar year, the borrower must submit a complete copy of the federal income tax return for the previous year to the Montana Board of Housing through their lender as soon as reasonably possible or by April 15th, whichever is earlier. Because the loan is financed with proceeds from tax-exempt bonds, a borrower may be subject to a recapture tax for federal income tax purposes. The recapture notice explains the potential for future tax liability and under which conditions it may apply. This form is signed at the time of the initial application. Because a borrower's loan is financed with the proceeds of a tax-exempt mortgage revenue bond, a complete signed copy of the information required to determine potential recapture tax form is required in the purchase package for funding. This form has 3 pages, including the information required to determine potential recapture tax, Exhibit 1 for the recapture tax chart, and the summary of recapture tax requirements. Please make sure that all lines on the information required to determine potential recapture tax form are completed and the borrowers have signed the form. The only page that needs to be in the purchase file is the information required to determine potential recapture tax form. A complete copy of the fully executed buy-sell agreement containing signatures and initials on all appropriate pages is required for funding. Please include any counteroffers and/or addendums to the buy-sell agreement. The agreement must show if multiple lots or parcels are included in the transaction. Lenders are required to provide proof the house structure encumbers all lots or that no parcel can be sold separately from the property supporting the residence. If any personal property is listed and given a value in the transaction, such as a hot tub or a storage shed, lender must supply the personal property statement provided by Montana Housing, signed by the borrowers. Evidence of hazard insurance is required to purchase the loan. Please provide a copy of the binder showing adequate coverage to rebuild or replace with at least 120% extended replacement coverage. With this verbiage included in the binder, Montana Housing deducts land value from the loan amount to verify replacement cost. All peril deductibles are not allowed to exceed the greater of $1,500 or 1% of the dwelling coverage, except for wind and hail, which cannot exceed the greater of $2,500 or 1% of the dwelling coverage. Montana Board of Housing must be named as first mortgagee on the hazard insurance binder prior to funding. If not already named, a lender must include a copy of the request for change of mortgagee clause letter sent to the insurance agency in the submission package. Please be sure these letters are being sent to the insurance company so policies are updated. Evidence of hazard insurance for condominium units requires that the condominium association must have a master hazard insurance policy covering the condominium project's common elements that includes the following language. Montana Board of Housing, its successors and assigns, is the mortgagee for the unit number or address to identify the specific unit financed by Montana Housing Mortgage. Written verification that this language is in the master policy must be submitted to Montana Housing. The master policy must include the amount of insurance coverage for the common elements covered by the master policy and the total number of units covered by the amount of insurance coverage. A borrower must have individual hazard insurance coverage on the unit's interior fixtures and amenities or similarly worded coverage sufficient to cover the replacement costs for the interior of the unit. Insurance policies must indicate a value for the replacement coverage, and the level of coverage must be adequate and not leave the borrower as a co-insurer by default. If the lender can demonstrate that the condominium master policy covers the unit's interior fixtures and amenities to a level adequate to prevent the borrower by default being a co-insurer of the property, the requirement for individual hazard insurance on the unit's interior fixtures and amenities may be waived at Montana Housing discretion. Montana Board of Housing must be listed as the first mortgagee on the hazard insurance policy for the unit. If Montana Board of Housing is not already named in the binder, please include a copy of the request for change of mortgagee clause letter sent to the insurance company. Lenders must provide a copy of the standard flood hazard determination form identifying the accurate zone of the subject property. Montana Housing information must be listed under number 1 as the lender servicer with the following address: Montana Housing, care of Loan Servicing, P.O. Box 200550, Helena, Montana 59620-0550. On number D, for determination on the standard flood hazard determination form, their certificate must be marked yes if the property falls within a flood zone or no if it does not. The lender must make sure that the flood certificate has the statement that the certificate is good for the life of the loan. If property falls within flood zone or plain, flood insurance is required. Evidence of flood insurance is required prior to funding if a property is located in a special flood area or FEMA Zone A or V, as evidenced by the standard flood hazard determination form and on the appraisal under the site section. Provide a copy of the binder showing adequate coverage to rebuild or replace with at least 120% extended replacement coverage. The deductible is the greater of $1,500 or 1% of the dwelling coverage, or what is allowed by NFIP, whichever the borrower chooses. MBOH must be named as the first mortgagee on the flood insurance binder using the address of Montana Housing, care of Loan Servicing, P.O. Box 200550, Helena, Montana 59620-0550. If not already named, lender must include a copy of the request for change of mortgagee clause in the submission package. The Uniform Residential Appraisal Report and all attached addendums are required for funding. The land connected to a residence must only maintain the basic livability of the residence and not provide a source of income to the borrower. Excess property means additional lots or parcels that can be sold to make a profit, regardless of whether the parcel is buildable or not. If the property's legal description has multiple lots or parcels, appraisers should be requested to clarify whether a lot or parcel could be severed and sold separately from the property supporting the residence. The appraisal pictures are used to look for residences with apartments, also called accessory dwelling units. These small apartments are attached to or carved out of a single-family house, whether in the basement, the attic, or completely separate from the residence, and are intended for occupancy. The unit has its own kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, living space, and entrance. A property is ineligible if it has one of these units or rentable spaces. In cases of new construction, the 35% rule must be reviewed as it pertains to individual or community water septic systems. Site value is divided by the appraised value to attain the loan to value. If 35% provide proof that the system do not have any violations. Any property that is subject to completion or subject to repair must have an appraisal update and/or completion report signed by the appraiser. If the appraisal is marked anything other than as is under the reconciliation part of the appraisal, such as subject to completion or subject to the following repairs or alterations, Montana Housing will need the appraisal update and/or completion report signed by the appraiser that all work is complete before Montana Housing will fund the loan. The release of financial information and early delinquency counseling form states that the borrower gives Montana Housing authorization to release certain information to such third-party counseling organization on behalf of the borrower if the borrower fails to make their mortgage payments. This form needs to be signed by all borrowers on the loan. For our loan servicing department to properly board a loan for servicing, the documents listed in this section of the submission voucher are required. Borrowers must send their first payment to our loan servicing department at Montana Housing, care of Loan Servicing, P.O. Box 200550, Helena, Montana 59620-0550. No interim servicing is allowed. Please do not make mortgage insurance payments on behalf of the borrower, and any city taxes that are due must be paid by the borrower. Thank you for watching Purchase 101 Part 2, The Nuts and Bolts. We invite you to visit our website at housing.mt.gov for more information. Check out the lender page for loan programs, current rates, and frequently asked questions. And don't forget to like us on Facebook.